Sound.
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 Sound. Sound.
Sound.
Found in sound.
Hi, welcome to Season 2 of Found in Sound. I'm your host, Laura Kelsey, and I'm a musician and filmmaker in Nanaimo, BC, which is on the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nation. We covered a lot of ground in Season 1, starting with a crash course in the physics of sound and how sound is interpreted by the brain. From there, how music therapy is presented to clients by music therapists and elder care homes, and how musicians feel they are soothed by their creations. Further episodes featured interviews with sound workers and therapists, discussing how they integrate sound into their practices, and I had the chance to try different sound modalities. In this new season, we'll discover the reciprocal sound relationships between humans and nature, as well as find out how to create a healthier sound environment in your own home. But first, let's explore sound through different senses.
Hi, I am Donna Hudon. I am a 55-year-old West Coast Canadian. I'm blind. I am a community support worker. I work full-time for the Nanaimo Association for Community Living. I've been living on the West Coast for 32 years, and that's as long as I have been totally blind for. I went blind from retinitis pigmentosa. So I went blind slowly, my mom noticed when I was about 4 years old. By the time I was 9, I couldn't see at nighttime. By the time I was 13, 14, I should have been using a cane more regularly. By the time I was 23, I lost my sight. So when you first asked me to talk about sound, I was thinking a lot of people think that people who are blind, automatically their ears are better. And I was thinking, I don't consciously rely on my ears. In fact, sometimes if I have an allergy, my ears can be distorted, muffled a little bit. But then, after you asked me to talk about the subject, I started paying attention to my ears and how important they are. For instance, just this morning, I was sitting on my rebounder here, just sitting, and I realized I can hear the birds, I can hear vehicles, I can hear, dogs barking in the background, somebody driving up, closing their door, and all of those things and what those signal for me during the day. I was also considering about when I'm traveling. There's such a thing as, some people call it echolocation, some people call it sound shadows. So where there is a building, and then in between the building, there's an opening, and then another building, you can hear that there's an opening. You can sense that there's an opening between those two buildings. Walking along the sidewalk, I can sense in a more micro detail that if there's a pole that comes up. So if there's a pole, my body automatically shifts because I'm sensing it, and that sensation is coming through my ears. If I'm wearing a hat, it seems to muffle that hearing. So I don't have that location as much. I don't have that ability to know where I am. I was using my guide dog a lot, and so he's now retired, a fun-loving, retired at 5 years old. So I use my cane, and I noticed that even the type of cane that I use makes a difference on my navigation. This one being carbon fiber, it has a very light tip. You can hear the sound difference that it makes on different things. So I'm hearing it, then I'm knowing that, okay, keeping on the sidewalk, there's the grass, that sort of thing.
Sound tip.
Show you a little trick that I learned. Okay, so like if you yourself had a pillow or something,
Yep.
And even if you don't, like some people, they click, like they'll go. But if you're not even careful, like you could go, and you could hear, like your face, you could notice when it's close to you, right? And that's the sound. Voiceover is all over in my life. So I use my computer at work. I have an iPhone, and including even my fancy glasses. They are Meta Ray-Ban glasses, so I can ask it questions, and I have little speakers that are in the arms, and so I can hear what it says. So I can ask it, and it's AI, so it's learning as we go, right? So I just got them. The more I use them, the more detailed it's giving me. So I can ask it, hey Meta, look and tell me what's in front of me. And it says, so there's a person sitting in front of two buildings with trees and sky above you. And what they're doing for people that are blind is incredible.
It's amazing to think how unique every human experience is, and that we all have our own personal interactions with sound. Many people also have varying degrees of hearing loss or deafness that greatly affect their relationships with sound.
Hi, my name is Will. I've been in Nanaimo since 2013, and I'm in my 50s. When I was born, I had normal hearing, but they think I contracted a virus through my brother who had measles when I was inside my mom's womb, and that destroyed the nerves in my cochlea. And I eventually had profound hearing loss by the time I was 4. They weren't quite sure. My mom used to go into the crib and pound on the bottom of the crib to get my attention, and she realized something was wrong because I wasn't responding, because otherwise I was a normal, healthy baby. So sound came into effect in my life at a really early age, and how important it was. I went through regular school all of my life. Luckily, I was one of the first people in the 70s to be integrated into public school with a hearing loss. I was actually part of a pilot project. So it turned out to be pretty successful, but it was a bit of an adaptation for a lot of people in 1975. And a lot of learning for both the teachers, other students, and myself. A lot of struggles. But I'm glad to say I got through it because I had a really good support system. I've been through a lot in my childhood because I had to wear hearing aids. And the early hearing aids in the 70s are quite primitive. I used to have to wear like a Darth Vader box on my chest with straps and long wires sticking to my ears. And it was really, I hated that thing. When I would want to bounce and hit me in the face sometimes. So thankfully, as the years progressed, technology got way better and smaller and less obtrusive. But it's funny. The one thing I can say about all that technology is I realized how much sound has changed over the years, become more precise, more accurate, more efficient.
Will explains there are challenges and adjustments to be made with each new pair of hearing aids.
Even these new ones I got recently, I had to turn them down because there's too much. And technology has gone crazy. I now have an app for my hearing aids now. And I can actually adjust the setting according to where I am. Like if I'm in a restaurant, at the movies, watching TV, things like that. But sound has been pretty important to me over the years.
The hearing aids Will experienced in the past were unidirectional, which sourced sound from only one direction, so he could only focus on what was in front of him. Now, his hearing aids have settings that can perceive sound from the front, behind, and to the sides, which Will says can be great for safety, but also overwhelming with background noise.
So I have to change my settings in a lot of situations so I'm comfortable. And that's the thing. I was thinking about this. Sound is comfortable. You have to make it comfortable for yourself. Otherwise it's too much, it's overload, or it's not enough, whatever. What's funny is one thing I learned whenever I get a new pair of hearing aids, you have to set them up so that I'm comfortable. So that means my own voice has to sound right. It has to sound natural. The other person's voice has to sound right. And it can't be tinny. There can't be too much bass. There can't be too much treble. And the pitch is ridiculous when it's really high. But the interesting thing is, I really don't know if what I hear is the same as what regular people hear, because hearing aids only take what they have and change it into its own translation. So I really don't know how much natural the sound really is. But I try to do I just have to go with what's comfortable. I read lips, and I can hear you with my hearing aids. I can hear your speech, but I have to read lips because otherwise, if I can't see your face, it's not going to work. If you're chewing gum or if you have a massive beard, it's not going to work.
The COVID-19 pandemic offered a new set of lip reading challenges due to the widespread use of face masks.
Well, I have to get my daughter and my wife to translate. You know what? It made me feel like I lost my independency. Lip reading is so important. I can lip read without my hearing aids, but I do need the sound. Think about this. If I'm saying sleep and sweep, it looks the same. Elephant, I love you, looks the same. You kind of need the sound. Occasionally, I mean, put it this way. If it's sound, I have to think about where I'm going to sit wherever I go. When I go to a restaurant, I want to see everybody's face. If I go to a meeting, I have to see everybody's face. When I go to work, I have to make sure I'm in the right spot when they're having a floor meeting. Otherwise, I'm not going to, and I still can't get everything sometimes. Technology is changing, but when you have a supervisor holding a microphone up in front of his lips and I can't see his lips, that makes it really difficult. So adaptation, that's my whole life. Really, I have to in order to survive.
So how have assistive hearing devices changed over the years?
I'm Neil Bowman. I was born with a severe hearing loss and have had lifelong tinnitus. And for the past 35 years, I've been running the Center for Hearing Loss Help, where I've been helping people successfully deal with their various ear problems. And after doing this for a number of years, I got interested in old hearing aids. I teamed up with Hugh Hetherington of West Vancouver, and we merged our individual collections to form the Hearing Aid Museum. Now, the evolution of hearing aids over the years is fascinating. So let's take a very brief tour of the 5 technological phases that hearing aids have undergone in the past 275 years. See, beginning about 1750, acoustic hearing aids such as hearing horns, ear trumpets, and conversation tubes began to appear. Hard of hearing people used these trumpets to pick up sounds from people speaking nearby. And these devices ranged in size from this humongous dipper, so-called because it looks like a rain barrel dipper. And you just held it here and you could hear. And there also was tiny little ear trumpets like this little London dome from about 1900. Now, this was all the technology that was available to people for 150 years. And then the second technological phase began around 1900 with the invention of carbon hearing aids, such as this Acousticon. This is a model SRD from 1910. And all they consisted of was an earphone, a microphone. This was a double microphone. That's why it's called an SRD. And a battery. Normally the battery's inside, and then you could have this carrying case. Looks like a lunchbox. Not good sound by current standards. Not a lot of amplification, tinny, lots of noise in them. But that's what they had. And they slowly petered out in use in the 1930s. And then the third technological invention was the vacuum tube. This was the very first vacuum tube hearing aid. Has one tube in it. Earphone. That's the microphone right there. And on the back of it, facing you, is the on-off volume control switch. That's it. And then they continued to get smaller and smaller and have more vacuum tubes in. They usually had 3. And so by 1949, they had shrunk down from this humongous thing to this tiny little guy, very elegant. That's a nice gold filigree mic grill on it. And you put the earphone in your ear. In December of 1952, the next stage of technology came out, and that was the transistor. And it came out, this is the very first hearing aid that had a transistor in it, from December of 1952. And you might be interested. Did you know that the very first application of the transistor was not the transistor radio? It was the hearing aids. I got my first hearing aid soon after. This was my first hearing aid. It was a Zenith Royal, and that was from 1954. 2 years after this one, this hearing aid came out, which was a behind the ear model. But look at the enormous size of it. Compare it to my hearing aids now. And then there was another change. And the final change was with the development of digital hearing aids. And I'm holding in my hand here the first digital hearing aid. This is called a Widex Senso that came out in 1996. So hearing aids have just come a long, long ways from the early days of the Dipper to our sophisticated ones today.
The type of hearing aid a person requires may depend on their level of hearing loss.
Like if you're deaf or hard of hearing, there's a difference. You have a profound hearing loss, which is me, and then you have hard of hearing, which is like people that have late onset hearing loss, and they don't really need that much of a boost, maybe a little bit, but not much.
Will was offered a cochlear implant when he was young, which is a small electronic hearing assistive device that has two parts, an internal piece that's surgically implanted under the skin behind the ear, and an external microphone. The internal piece sends electrical impulses to the auditory nerve that the brain interprets into sound.
So profound hearing loss in both ears. One ear is actually stronger than the other, but not by much. If I take my hearing aids off, it's really interesting. I sleep awesome at night. I have to worry about sirens, the dog barking. There are some frequencies that regular hearing people can hear, but I can't detect them because it's just too out of reach or whatever, like really soft sounds. I do hear slight vibrations or tinkles or whatever, but that's just really occasional, right? So, but usually it's just conk out. But I do have to rely on vibrations. Like I wake up with an alarm clock that vibrates, so it's something a lot of people take for granted. I can hear dog growling, which is really helpful. I mean, I can hear the wind blowing. I can hear the waves crashing, which is great. But there's some things that, you know, like from really far away, there's some I might not detect. Well, let's put it this way. When I'm listening to the radio, I really, with some exceptions, can't really understand what they're saying on the for lyrics unless I really know the song, like, you know, like a Kiss song or something. But other stuff is all just jammed together like static, and I can hear the instruments, the beat, and the different songs, and I just listen to the beat and the instruments. But if you were to ask me to pick out the instruments, that's a little bit tough. I can hear the drums, the guitar, and the synthesizer, but if you're going to ask me to pick out a clarinet, I can't do that. It's like really different. It's just all, otherwise just kind of muddled together sometimes. So yeah, I mean, caption is great, but it doesn't do everything for the sound of music. Sometimes I regret it, but I feel like I missed out. But you know what? I make up for other things. I'm extremely visual. I have to be. I love movies, and I always watch with captions. And I used to be an art teacher too, so I used to love painting and drawing and all that stuff, but I haven't had time to do it anymore. But I'm extremely visual, and I pick up on things that a lot of people don't pick up on. I smell things that other people don't smell before they do it. I know when something's off. It's just there's like electrical smell in the air or something. It's just really weird. And my wife goes, "I don't smell that." I say, "Really?" Oh, no. It's just the way it is. You might notice that my speech seems pretty clear for somebody who has a profound hearing loss. It wasn't always clear. I had a really thick accent, well, speech impediment when I was a kid. And it made it hard for some people to understand me. But I read tons of books when I was growing up, and I still do. And I think that really helped. But that's the funny thing. If you don't have people teaching you how to speak, then you have a problem, because I would often say words the way they're printed. Like, you know the word rendezvous? It was in French, I would say rendezvous. I would say salmon instead of salmon. Whatever, my wife still corrects me on that. Even a few days ago, my daughter said, you can't say subtle, you have to say subtle. I said, what? I had no idea. So, and it's funny with words, because there's many people pronounce them in many different ways. But anyways, as I got older, I got better at speaking, and my speech impediment more or less was reduced. By the time I got into university, it really was dramatically improved, but I still, of course, had the lisp, the speech impediment, pronouncing of certain words, like a hard sound on certain words. Just everybody is different. Every deaf person is different. Every hearing person is different. Everybody perceives sound differently, no matter who they are, what level they're at. I've had to learn to adapt over the years, and I'm still learning. Technology is great, but it doesn't replace everything either. You would have to have a passion, and you can't give up on things. Some people choose not to even wear hearing aids at all and not have sound at all. They're in a completely dark world in terms of sound, but that's their choice. Actually kind of funny, because sometimes in certain situations I can perceive sound in a weird way, like water. Water amplifies sound. If I was swimming, my daughter would come over close to me and yell in my ear, and I would hear something because it would amplify. But when I was a kid, I used to play in the bathtub a lot. I'd lay down in the bathtub and the water would go up to here, and I would yell, I would say something, and it would reverb. The water would actually allow the sound to conduct and it amplifies, so it would be fun. It would be like, oh, I don't have to wear hearing aids or whatever, but it was a weird tone, so I have no idea. But it really amplified, and it's really strange. I could perceive sound that way through the water. So imagine what happens with mammals in the water, like whales, sharks, dolphins, all that stuff. It must be crazy. Your sound is part of your personality. When you get to know people, you realize the sound is what makes them who they are. I have a friend that's 6'4". She has the most amazing, boisterous laugh I've ever heard in my life. So I always know when she's talking because of how loud she's talking, how loud her laugh is. But that's part of her personality. She wouldn't be who she is without her own particular sound. But you can really get to know somebody through their own version of sound. I think it's really important. It really helps you get to know people. That's why diversity in sound is important with people as well. Nobody's the same. Thank goodness for that. It would be a boring place.